This is a wireless HDMI transmitter and receiver by 𝚘𝚘𝚘, and we're going to check it out today. I'm going to demo it with an iPad Pro and a portable monitor. So a few things to get out of the way first in terms of specification. This supports a 4K signal. However, the HDMI out of the receiver will always be 1080p. So that's important. If you really care about the resolution, then keep in mind that 1080p is the one that you're going to be receiving, okay, or in any case displaying. Now, things that come in the box aside from the receiver and transmitter are a few cables in here, which I haven't used them yet because I have my own, so I don't need to use them right now. But you do get an HDMI cable, full-size HDMI cable, and a USB-A to USB-C cable that is used to power the receiver. Okay, another thing worth mentioning, the receiver has to be powered on so that it can receive a signal. However, the transmitter does have an USB-C port, but this is only for if you want to power the device that you're connecting it to. So for example, if you connect this to a compatible smartphone, or in my case an iPad, you can use this port to charge the device. Okay, if you connect it to a computer, you do not need to power it on because it does receive power from the USB-C port. So if you separate this, they do come snug together. So this port right here is only for you to snug this USB-C port, and you can take it to travel as such. Okay, so you separate this, and then you get the USB-C, the male USB-C port, which is what you connect to your transmitting device. Another thing, right on the topic, you do not necessarily need the transmitter to be able to have an HDMI signal here, because you can also AirPlay from, for example, an iOS device, or cast from an Android device into the receiver by itself. Okay, so bottom line, you can get by with only the receiver, but if you want to transmit directly via a USB-C port from any device, you do need the transmitter. And now that I had this cable creep up in the screen, then this is an USB-C extender that you also get in the box. So in case your USB-C port or plug is too narrow to go inside the device, you can easily use this extender to plug it in. In my case, the iPad Pro does have a case on it. However, it does fit nicely as such, and you will see that it powers on. I'm not sure if the camera is capturing the cable there. I mean the LED, and there it is. And flashing means that it's waiting for a signal. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. So like I mentioned, first you need to plug in the USB-C cable for power. Okay, so it turns on. You can see the LED here. And then when it establishes the connection, it's going to be solid. Though the one on the bottom is still not connecting. But anyway, I'm going to plug it into the HDMI. And of course, I do need to power on the monitor. Now, first, I did have an issue with the monitor flickering, but that was because the charger that I was using to power the monitor was kind of giving me a little bit of an issue. So you do get an initial screen in the monitor. As you can see, it was something related to 𝚘𝚘𝚘. It shows you the firmware and everything, but now it establishes a connection, and as you can see, it is mirroring the iPad display perfectly. Now, if I go to settings, I can definitely extend the display, and it's going to show as an additional, display quite properly. Now, if I were to run a game, I have to first disable extended display for screen mirroring. Now, do keep in mind that this is not intended for gameplay. However, I wanted to show you how it looks. Now, I do have the occasional dropouts, which is a little bit interesting because I was not experiencing this before on my previous testing. So there's that. Okay. And it's a little bit of a shame because I did want to show you how little delay it has. Oh, there you can see it right now. There's very little delay. It is almost instant, but again, this is not meant to to be used for gaming. Now, if you want to play a YouTube video, as you can see, the audio goes straight to the portable monitor, to whatever HDMI connection that you have. And as you can see right now, it has not had any dropouts. Okay. If you try Netflix or anything like that, then you're not going to be able to see it, but this is because of the way Netflix works with the copyright protection. So you may be able to see the library and whatnot, but if you try to play something, then it is definitely not going to show. And it says the connected display is not supported. But that's because, again, copyright issues with the Netflix and similar streaming services. So the dropouts outside, which again, it was not happening before, so I'm not sure why it's happening now, even though the devices are very close together. And when I was testing them before, they were actually farther apart. And I was actually able to do a lot with this game for a very long time without any dropouts. So there's that. So in the spirit of being completely transparent on how these devices work, I'm not going to tell you that this is perfect, because it isn't. But again, as you can see right now, when it's working fine, then I can again show you that there's little to no delay. So that's good. Again, I cannot stress this enough. This is not meant for playing. Now, for some reason, as soon as I minimize the game, the screen refreshes just fine. So I don't know if it's something that has to do specifically with the game itself, but you know, there's that. So as you can see, this time around, it has been working just fine with no dropouts. So I really wouldn't know why that time in particular it was failing that much. But again, I want to be transparent. I don't want to show you something as being perfect when in fact it is not. So hopefully that helps. Now, I mentioned that the receiver can be used by itself, so I'm going to test just that. I haven't tested that part myself, so I have removed right now the transmitter, and of course now the screen is not updating. So I should wait for the receiver to reset, which it did, and I'm going to test now sharing the screen. So hopefully, well, so I tested it a lot and I wasn't able to activate AirPlay. I'm not sure if it's a thing with the transmitter or anything, or the receiver rather, but I looked at the instructions and I follow everything to the T. I mean, you're supposed to only connect the receiver and then it should show up in the screen mirroring of the iPad, but for some reason or another, it just wouldn't show. So yeah, this has been the Elano HDMI wireless transmitter and receiver, and I included all the quirks so that you can have a much more informed decision, being transparent as much as possible so that you can figure out for yourself whether or not this is something that's convenient to you. I can definitely see this being super helpful for those types of meetings that you have in person where people want to share the screen, but they don't necessarily have like a Teams meeting active because, well, everybody is in the room. So instead of just hanging out a HDMI cable that probably is not long enough for all the computers that may want to share a screen, so you just share the transmitter and plug it into the USB-C port of any computer. So again, that's pretty much the most common use case that I see for this type of device. So again, I hope that this video was helpful. Hope to see you in the next one, and until then, may God bless you all.